infinite speed glitch, new player traps, redstone mechanics, and much more. Hello there, Ray here, and I made this crazy test world in preparation for the new sulfur cube. And now that they are in game, let's use it to find some new tricks. So leave a like on the video. Now if you have a tame dog and you punch one of the cubes, what it's going to do is it's going to try to attack it, but it ends up just pushing it. It looks like your dog's actually playing ball. A Johnny Vindicator will attack the sulfur cube, but once it turns into the block, then it just bounces it around, which is funny. The Zoglin's also the same way, will attack the mobs, but as soon as it turns into a block, it just launches it. Let's see if the frogs will eat the baby sulfur cubes, because they do eat the tiny normal slimes as well as magma cubes, and it does not appear that they would eat them. Maybe someday they'll come out where they eat them and then spit out a unique block like the frog lights. Unlike other hostile slimes, iron golems do not actually attack them, so they recognize that they're not a threat. But because the sulfur cubes spawn in using the hostile mob cap, if you would go too far away from them, they'll despawn just like other hostile mobs. But you can stop this by giving them a name tag or putting a block inside them. Or if you just pick them up in a bucket and drop them again, then they'll never despawn. There seems to be a bug when you use a water bucket on the babies. They just get deleted and your bucket gets deleted as well. Now they're hostile mobs, but will they accept a golden dandelion since they are babies? Go ahead and try to shoot one, and it does. Oh, that's so cool. It means you can keep these guys as babies forever and they won't grow up. When you're in a tube, it looks like a scary mob coming at you. This is because they walk towards players holding blocks that they can absorb, which they can also do just by walking near a block. The player can walk into them and push them, but they don't actually push the player back like most entities. But their hitbox is under one block, so they can fit in these 1x1 holes. Now if you fall inside of one, like a armor stand trap, if you right click, you cannot actually do anything. You can kind of make a trap out of this where the players can't eat or even kill this mob because it's immune. So you can make like a crazy prison or vault, similar to how I did in this video here. So you could make some pretty simple player traps, but they're not like blocks. They cannot stand on top of each other, so you need something to hold them up, such as like a ladder. I designed this really simple automatic farm here for getting infinite amounts of sulfur cubes. Once you put one inside there, the babies will automatically grow up into adults over time, and when they do, they will automatically suffocate, and then they'll get broken back down into babies, which will produce twice as many. So every time this happens, the amount of them duplicates. You can get an infinite amount of them, and you could come in with your empty buckets and scoop them up and take them wherever you need. I did also put some poppers underneath and a chest in case they would drop any items, but currently they don't drop anything. Or you could let this thing run for a while so you get a whole bunch of adults, and then you kill them with your sword to get XP, to make a little passive XP farm. You can pick up the cubes in minecarts as well as boats, and the block ones also can be picked up. You cannot use leads on the live ones, but the frozen ones you can. Metal blocks make them move very slowly with a lot of resistance and no bounce. For whirls, a bit average, where they have a bit of bounce as well as slide. For mushroom stem is surprisingly really resistant to bouncing, but it does have a decent amount of sliding. Where snow block is kind of similar, but it has more sliding. Sponge is really airy, so it actually will bounce really far and also will slide a lot. But surprisingly, the bedrock blocks can be fed to them, and they are also very bouncy and can slide quite decent. But the ice ones are the ones that slide the furthest, but they can't get punched very far. Stalk also has some pretty cool properties where it can bounce far and it can also get moved really quickly. Where the coal block is a little bit strange, where it can surprisingly get pushed pretty far. Some of the strangest blocks are like the honey blocks, where it is pretty bouncy, and also the slime block, so they can bounce off of other things. If you put slime in it and there's a ceiling that's nearby, once it hits the ceiling, it'll let you get stuck up there. I'll do the same thing for honey. The thing is, once it's up there, it'll stay up there, even if you switch out for a block that normally doesn't stick to the ceiling. But once you come in and remove it with shears, then it'll fall back down. And if it falls off of the ceiling, notice that it leaves it right here, it'll just fall back down again. I really wish I had one that where you punch it, it would just stay up in the air so it could float around. Guys, look what I did. I put a slime guy on the bottom of the bedrock at the very bottom of the world, and he's flying infinitely because there's no friction down here. It just keeps going. First, I dropped one of the slime cubes into the void, and then I put a lead onto it, and then I pulled it back up again and attached it to this fence here. So it touches the bedrock and sticks to it. And then I got my alt account riding a pig in a boat, and that boat is hooked to the slime. So if I would release the player, it's going to hook to the slime. And now, if I release the slime, by just breaking this fence up here, now the slime is not connected to anything. It just has a suction onto the bedrock. Now if I just push the slime, it's going to slide across the top, and since there's no friction, it just moves infinitely across the entire world of Minecraft. You can get to the world border so easily like this without having to do anything. You don't have to fly with Elytra, you don't have to walk there. This is just hilarious. We got even more stuff to look at, but double check that you are still subscribed, as I make videos like this all the time, and we're getting close to 500,000 subscribers. But the block of resin is probably the most unique block, where when you punch it, it'll actually make the slime bounce. So when it hits the ground, it just kind of bounces off of it and bounces back up again, so it can bounce up really high. Having them bounce is really cool. They actually can easily bounce out of render distance very quickly. See if they fall at the same speed. And yeah, it appears they do. With some of the least bouncy blocks being some of the soul blocks, when you push it, it's almost like it's glued to the floor. It does not want to bounce, plus it does not slide very well, and it seems to be really heavy. Using a nether wart on the cube will make it really slidey, but no bounce at all. It's like it's stuck to the ground. So if you're playing a ball game with these and your ball is not bouncing very far when you're kicking it, without your opponent seeing it, go ahead and switch out with a different block, and then that way you can actually bounce your ball much quicker. And then when your opponent gets to the ball, switch it out with something slow again so they can't hardly move it. The magma cube one looks really cool, being like giraffe spots. And using redstone, you can kind of see their properties. That one goes really far, where this one doesn't go as far. You could make kind of a slow clock by bouncing them between two of these, where it gets pushed to the far end. And then when it gets to the last couple blocks, does it kind of slow down? And by using different property ones, you can make different speed clocks. Doesn't matter what type of ice you use, they all go the same distance, and that distance is about twice as far as the skull block, which is still really good at sliding. Now we got a sulfur cube in here, and we got a block inside of it. Now we'll use a dispenser with shears inside of it, see if it'll automatically shear off the block. And it actually does work, which is great for automation. And now let's try it with a sulfur cube that has no block, and then we're gonna try to put a block inside the dispenser to dispense the block onto it. And that also works, which is amazing. This is great for automation. You can always switch out the block in your sulfur cube, like inside of a mini game or any other type of automation. Some of the different blocks will also do different properties once they get placed into water, such as like the metal materials. When they get put into water, they'll sink to the bottom rather than bounce on top. You can automate this process by giving them a different type of block, like this was a honey block, which makes it sink. And then when it goes to the bottom, it picks up a different block. And then you could just keep repeating this process, making like a little elevator that could pull along a boat, and then the player could ride the boat to go up and down, or just use it for a little clock. I found a way to get the infinite bouncing easily. Just have some flowing water that got pushed out of it, and then they just keep bouncing. Hopefully they keep this in the game, because this is pretty cool. You can also hook multiple cubes to other cubes, and then when you hit one of them, they'll pull the other ones along. And sprinting and hitting this with a knockback, and yeah, they fly so far, they just get like unloaded. Oh, there they are. Wow. Dude, they just zoom across the world. So you can put them onto a rail system, and they'll get moved based off of their properties. Some slide more, some drag more, some even bounce. So I'm riding a pig that's in a boat, and the boat is attached to a resin slime. Let's go ahead and hit it. Oh, wow. Wow, that really shot me really far before the lead got too stretchy and broke apart. And if we combine this with something not as pokey as the knockback sword, like a spear, we can go ahead and constantly hit it, and it just keeps sending us forward on flat ground. Let's try this on water. Look at that, guys. Oh, it's amazing. So I went through and tested a whole bunch of variety of blocks. Anything that was not a full block would not go inside of one of these guys. Also no tile entities such as like containers, which did mean that shulker box did not work. And we also did try TNT. It also did not work, along with a bunch of other blocks. But like the ones you see that are around here, these are all the ones that did work. Now, supposedly if you hit them in different areas, they will bounce different angles and heights, but it doesn't seem to be like that currently in the game. You could make fun games where you hook onto them with a fishing rod and then you just yeet them through the air. Oh, that kind of worked. Let's try projectiles on them. Oh yeah, those do work nicely. Try a wind charge. Wow, that one went like super far, the wind charge. That's crazy far. Let's try Ender Pearl. Yeah, it kind of pushes them a little bit. Let's get Bone Arrow. It bounces them. And a Trident with Loyalty. Nice. You still need to stop them from taking damage from some types of things in games, such as like damage potions. They also take suffocation damage and also fall damage, despite most slimes not being able to take fall damage. And if you would throw an invisibility potion onto them, you can see they pretty much go completely invisible. If you do it to one that already has a block inside of it, then the block just shows up. So you can make it look like that you have a block just sitting there, as long as you constantly keep it invisible. The Splash of Oozing Potion does not work because they're seen as slimes, and slimes cannot get affected by this. But potions like the Infested Potion can work. The thing is, once they turn into cube, they don't take any damage. So any of these type of potions, like the Wind Charge one, as well as the Web one, they only work when the mob actually takes damage. Now in Java, you can attack Armor Stand, and it will do a sweeping attack to nearby mobs. In Bedrock Edition, they don't have the sweeping attack, nor do they have the enchantment. But I wanted to see if you could like attack a slime and then attack nearby mobs, but we're gonna have to wait for Java to test that one out. I want to test entity cramming with these guys, especially the frozen ones, but there's no entity cramming in Bedrock Edition, so I'll also have to wait for Java Edition to test that. So how far out does a single potent block go? Wow. Yep, it goes a pretty big area. You can see how big it is. Now putting any block above the source will kill it, so it needs to have air above that. The area where the sulfur will interact with neighboring waters is marked out by the lily pads. You can see it's kind of a symmetry shape, but it is a bit directional, being more in these two directions than those two directions. The bubbles themselves don't push you down or up like the bubble columns, and they also don't give you the effect unless you're at the very top of it. They either blocking off or giving access to a spot where it can start producing particles does not activate the nearby observer. It also does nothing if you do it to the main spot where there is bubble columns. And it seems that, at least in Bedrock Edition, even blocking this here will not affect the observer, as the piston does not get activated. And if you're walking around on the surface, you might find one of these. This is actually an indication that there is actually some of the sulfur caves underneath. It has some sulfur, there's even some potent sulfur that's putting off particles. And it's just on the surface, similar to how like Azalea, where lush caves are. This will actually point you to where the sulfur caves are if you just dig underneath of it. Look at that, guys. There's a whole bunch of them down here. Even one that goes right through a mine shaft, which is pretty cool. And I cleared away the blocks, you can see exactly how it is. There's actually a huge chunk of sulfur. So when you find it, you can kind of like start mining it and then follow it all the way down, and it'll lead you straight to where the cave is. Just like how the roots of the Azalea tree lead you to the lush caves. Which one was your favorite? And don't forget to share this with your favorite Minecrafter. And big thanks to my supporters. These videos are only possible because of donations and support. So big thanks to them. And I will see you guys all in the next one. Bye-bye.